So step two, we are going to look at cash flow first. Now, look, it's all great to have, say, a pot of money there, and everybody likes the thought of becoming an investor. And, we've heard all the different sayings: financial freedom, passive income, financial independence, freedom of choice, etc. But, there's ways to do it, and there's things that we need to overcome to get there. Look, nothing's easy. Okay. Now, if you do have a pot of cash there, we do need to be careful and invest with caution. The reason why I say this is because we see all these different shiny objects or shiny pennies that look great because someone else has found some success in them. But we also have to be aware of, again, back to our personal risk appetite and time horizon. Now, the reason why I say cash flow first is because income and cash flow is the most important thing over anything. You can invest a pot of money into something, but then unless you find something like, I don't know, real estate or another asset class that you can recycle the money, again, there's no fast way of doing that. But then it's going to be very hard to really generate more cash flow. That's why we like to focus inside this group on mainly buying businesses, because you're buying cash flow, you're buying income, and then you can use that income to do other things with. So let's hop back into the whiteboard. So cash flow should always be at the forefront of your game plan. Now, cash flow allows you to do multiple things. So cash flow income always comes first. Now, if we have cash flow or income, then we get choice. And with choice, let's just put a pool of assets here rather than saying, mentioning individual assets. Now, we can use our cash flow from, our business or whatever it is we're getting our cash flow or income from. We can put it into assets. And if these are income producing assets, then guess what they do? They generate more cash flow. And then with this, you can continue to recycle back into assets, and they'll just keep generating more cash flow each time. Now, the reason why this is always going to be more appealing than anything else is because, let's say we have one pot. So let's say this is our pot of money, and we need to make this pot make us more money, right? So let's say we invest in a house, say a buy-to-let property. Okay. Now, let's say we use the BRR model, which, if you want to learn more about, you can go into our portal. But let's say we use the BRR model where we buy, refurbish, refinance, and pull all or most of the money out of the deal. Now, what we're going to do is, let's say it's a typical buy-to-let property, and let's say now this property generates us, I don't know, $200 a month. Okay. Now, and let's say the asset is worth, let's say it's worth 100K. So our pot of money that we put into this, let's say we pulled a lot of it out. Yes, this asset is now giving us $200 a month cash flow after all expenses. But, for us to generate more cash flow from this asset, we either have to, change of use and make it into, HMO or service accommodation, or try and change the strategy to increase the income that asset produces, or we're going to be stuck at around $200 until rents go up. And to generate even more income from a capital appreciation side, we need to wait over time until this asset goes up in value. And this is the same for stocks. Let's say you bought a stock, and let's say you bought the stock, let's say again, for $200. Okay. We buy the stock for $200. We have to now wait until this asset appreciates and the stock goes up. And that could take time. We've seen the stock market move fast. We've seen it move very, very slow. But in general, it's a very slow moving market, and it takes time to really benefit from capital appreciation. As they say, it's time in the markets, not trying to time the markets. And let's say, to make this an income producing asset, we collect some dividends. So this asset chucks off some dividends, and we get a small dividend for the stocks that we own. So this pot doesn't really get us very far. We're trying to put it into different things. Now, of course, there are other options. We could look at, Bitcoin. We could look at different ways we can use DeFi to benefit us. Of course, risk can go up in these different asset classes, a very volatile asset class. So there's different ways we can look at building this pot and generating income from an initial pot. Whereas if we use our pot to go and buy something that is already pushing out a decent amount of cash flow, then this changes the whole game. So let's say now we buy a business here, and we use our pot to buy the business, and let's say this business is now throwing out, I don't know, 200K a year, right? So let's say this initial pot was, let's say it's 50K. We've got a 50K pot here. We use that 50K pot to buy, say, a business, which again, inside the portal, we can show you to use, no money down or very close to no money down using leverage buyouts to buy businesses. We have people and 5D members inside the group right now that haven't put any of their own money in the deal, not even to pay for legal fees, any professional fee at all, actually, and walked into a business that already had a huge amount of surplus cash in the bank. But we can show you that inside the program, okay? Of course, there's many ways to do this, as there's many moving parts. But let's say we used the 50K as the closing payment, and then we bought this business here, and the 50K was the closing payment. And now this is throwing out £200,000 a year. Okay. Of course, there's going to be, cost of borrowing for finance for this business. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail. I just want to use this for an example, right? So let's say this is throwing out $200,000 a year now. Now you've got so many more options to use this $200,000, and you've really leveraged the 50K that you started with, right? So usually you probably look at this and be like, well, if I can use 50K or less to buy something that's going to generate $200,000 a year, then maybe I'll just go and buy another one of those. And maybe you go and buy another biz, and then maybe another biz. And then as your 200K increases, and let's say now you bought three, roughly the same business, and let's say that's 600K, then that 600K, of course, you can then put that into either maybe income producing assets to generate more cash flow, or maybe you just buy more businesses, okay? Of course, there's more to this. And, when it gets to, closing a deal and post-acquisition, of course, things can be complicated, just like everything, okay? Just like if you used to buy a property, something could pop up with a refurb. Maybe you have an issue with your general contractors or, whoever's involved in the refurbishment. Maybe you buy a stock and something goes wrong, some bad news comes out and the stock sells off. Maybe you buy a cryptocurrency and it fails, right? This could happen in anything. This is when it all comes down to risk management, risk appetite, time horizon. My point here is cash flow will always be king. So if you have a pot of money, try and use that pot to buy something that generates more cash flow, especially if you can, more than the pot of money you already have. So really be mindful of what asset class you're going into and what you really want to be spending your time on, because in everything, there's time risk and there's capital risk, okay? And these are two things that are very important to us inside the 5D program.